to Lola.
Recording is on.
It's exciting to have you here today. It's truly an honor, right, to have you here. You guys, I pulled my boss into this call, so please like, subscribe, and follow my channel. Right, she's took time out of her busy schedule to be a part of this conversation today. So do ensure that you engage with the video when you come across it. Thank you once again, Lola, for joining in. For those of you that are watching for the very first time, my name is Jedidiah, and I am the host of or conveyor of the NorthStar community. And basically, the NorthStar community, as the name implies, is that guiding light for people who are navigating their careers, especially people who are getting into tech and might need guidance as regards to how exactly to go about it. People who are interested in tech but don't even know where to start. People who are already, building a career in tech who are struggling to navigate that. The function or the purpose of this community is to have interactions, build with other people just like yourself, just get guidance and support as you navigate your journey. And in today's session, we have a very special guest in person of Lola Femi, who is the COO at Tenalytics. Now, Lola is an awesome professional. She's an operations and growth leader who has built and scaled systems and teams within organizations. She's tech driven and has worked across multiple businesses across Africa, Europe, and right now she runs the operational engine at Tenalytics, which is one of the fastest growing tech education companies globally. And that's not the end of it. Lola has built her career across two continents. She has worked across multiple sectors. She has helped over 1,000 people navigate their journey. And there's one tagline that actually draws and catches my attention in her profile, which is if it needs work and skill, it has, right? So what this tells me is that she's very intentional and takes ownership of her work. And it's super exciting to have Lola on the call today. And we're going to have an amazing conversation as we flow through the session today. And I'm really looking forward to everything that we're going to discuss today. I'm really looking forward to picking your brains today, Lola. And yeah, without further ado, let's actually dive right into it. But I think I didn't do justice to introducing Lola, so I would like to give her, hand over to her and actually let her introduce herself before we dive into the rest of the conversation. Hi, Lola.
Hi, Jedidiah. Honestly, I'm not even sure what to say anymore. When you say don't think you did justice, I'm not sure what else is left to say. You've covered it. My name is Lola Femi, and I'm the COO of Analytics. And when Jed was introducing me, I began to wonder at some point if it was me he was talking about, or it was someone else. But yes, I'm a product and operations leader, and I've done this across several continents and also worked across various industries as well. I think that level of, I think all of that just gives me this unique perspective in regards to edtech, especially. Because when you look at the way all of the systems connect, one thing with operations is what I would call it's in the middle. Operations has no friend, it has no enemy. So moving across all of these industries and learning how to grow and how to scale things, moving all of that experience into EdTech, I think it's a very exciting thing. It's one of the best things about operations, the fact that you can do operations in e-commerce, you can do operations in fintech, and the main thing that you're looking for is how do I remove this blocker, and you can take that knowledge, everything that you learn is transferable. You can take that and you can apply it to a completely different industry and it will still work. I think that's one of the most exciting parts about operations. So I'm excited to be here. I do love to share knowledge, and I'm hoping that for everyone who tunes in today, that they walk away with something that they can, carry on into their career and their lives. So thank you for having me, Jen.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Super amazing to have you. So this is the second episode we are having of a session like this, and we are trying to start a culture of having the previous guest leave a question for the next guest. All right. So at the end of the session, would like for you to leave a question for the next guest that we're going to have on the next session like this. And I think that already hints to the fact that because you are on the second episode, you'll be answering a question from the previous guest. All right. So, so to kick things off with that, the question from our previous guest was specifically around how to actually get a job. She pointed towards the fact that getting a job is not as easy as it seems. As a matter of fact, some people say getting a job is as difficult. It is a whole job on its own. Applying to jobs is a whole job on its own. And people say keep bombing, keep sending out applications. But what really does it take to actually secure a job? You sit at the C-suite level of an ed tech organization right now, and you have managed to have your journey through working for different organizations all the way to this level that you are at today. And you've seen multiple people come into organizations, and at that level, there are certain level of details that you see. There are certain things that you will prioritize, right? When bringing people onto your teams, there are certain things that you are looking out for. So, what really does it take to get a job, especially in today's market?
Which is a very interesting question. So the market is
Mhm.
always shifting. And now that we have AI has completely changed the way the market works. What I would say it takes to get a job, one of the most important things would be visibility, number one. The first thing is visibility. Visibility because you can't even get into those doors that you need or get those opportunities that you need access to if you are not visible. If you are looking for a job, you have to be visible, you have to be out there. Your profile has to be discoverable by the people who are looking for you. So then you start to hear there are lots of cliche advice on the internet, like, oh, you have to optimize your CV, you have to, but it's cliche, but it's true. It is true because you are competing with everybody else in the marketplace doing that. So that means that visibility is very important. Your LinkedIn, I've seen some people who are looking for jobs and their LinkedIn profile is just a complete mess. And it makes me wonder, are you looking for a job or are you here to trade? So that's serious if your LinkedIn profile is a mess. So when I talk about optimizing, I always say to people that if you have never received a message from a recruiter before saying, are you interested in this job? And typically the way they do that is it's just a blast and it goes out to everyone who fits the profile. It means that your profile is not optimized, your LinkedIn profile. So you have to be visible on the world's number one biggest career platform. That's the first thing. The second thing is proof, not promise. Oh, I'm a fast learner and I'm passionate about tech. There are sentences that hiring managers have stopped reading. Nobody cares if you work hard or if you don't know how to sleep at night. Honestly, nobody cares because you can hear that from anyone. They want to see that you can actually do it. What they want to see is that you have solved a real problem with a real number attached to it. They want to see your portfolio. So you've gotten past the visibility hurdle. Now it's about proof. Because before I come in and I talk to you, I want to see that you understand how to do what needs to be done. So that is where your portfolio comes in. And in this market, with AI able to generate a competent sounding CV for anyone, the only thing that still differentiates a candidate is evidence that AI cannot fabricate. You can literally just put in a trash resume and say and give AI the right prompt, and it will spit out a fantastic resume that will beat ATS for you. But when you go to your portfolio, that is work that you cannot make it up. So when I'm seeing, I always say that it falls into category two different categories: your resume and your portfolio. One is your show, one is your tell. Your resume is your tell. I optimized X by 20%. I did this by 40%. Your portfolio is where you show what you have done. So you need to have a portfolio, something you've actually built, something that was broke, something that you fixed, something that shows that you can actually get the job done, and something that you can also defend in an interview under pressure for 10 minutes straight. So when they're throwing questions at you, how did you do that? Not that you, because of what I said, now you go and download a portfolio from the internet. But yeah, I would say that those two things. Another one would be fluency with your tools. So you have to know how to use tools. I think a lot of people think that AI is, as I was asking a candidate a question one time in an interview. I said, "What AI tools do you know how to use?" And the way he answered the question, he was like, "Oh, no, 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 no. So when it comes to my code, I build my code and then I get AI to test it out. It's just a data analyst." And I asked him, I said, "Why did you have to stress that out for me? Do you think that I'm worried that you are building your codes with AI?" And it was a very interesting thing because a lot of candidates think that the use of AI or the knowledge of it is going to take away the opportunity for jobs. They think that people don't want them using AI to generate things like decks or sheets or things that make your job faster. I told him that the only thing that anyone cares about is that you don't outsource your thinking to AI. So you still have the human in the loop is a very important process. Your knowledge of AI will literally break down barriers for you. So if you are looking for a job, you need to be visible. You need to have a portfolio. You need to stay in trend with what is changing right now in the world. And the biggest change that is happening, especially when it comes to the tech world, is AI. So you have to be fluent in AI.
That's absolutely amazing. That's absolutely amazing. AI is becoming a bedrock for the ecosystem that we see today, not just within the tech space, but in business, in pretty much everywhere. In churches today, you hear about tools like Beam that help with scriptures. You go to medical centers, you find AI tools. You go to banks and so on and so forth, and you hit a very important nail right on the head, which is the fact that you actually need to build a portfolio. And this was also something we discussed in the last episode. And a very big question that a lot of people tend to ask is, okay, I need to build a portfolio, but how exactly do I navigate that? And in the last episode, our guest mentioned something very important. There are multiple layers, there are multiple ways that you can actually get this done. You can volunteer at different organizations where you get the opportunity to actually gain the experience. Now, it might not always come with some monetary value, but by the time they start to see the value of your work, of course, that gets rewarded. All right. You can work with, join institutions, join communities that allow you to actually collaborate on actual projects that become visible. And just, I think a couple of days ago, I was listening to a senior tech professional in the US, and he was talking about how the hiring process typically goes, and the fact that when he's trying to hire someone into his team, he's not just looking at you know what they have on their LinkedIn profile. He would also go into places like their GitHub, right, to see what kind of projects they've worked on. And he's not only focused on a GitHub repo that you just put up last night, because some people, maybe you have an interview and that's the time you're trying to push something, so it's not like you've not built anything or you're just rushing to use AI. He's not just looking at the most recent projects, he's looking at progression. What have you done in the last 6 months? Has there been any growth? Has there been consistency in you actually honing your skills? So, besides having a portfolio, which is really amazing, it's also important that you are consistent with this process. It's also very much important that you are continuous. It's not just a one-time thing, right? You are continuous building projects that allow you to not only hone your skills, but actually help you to build and showcase these skills that you are gaining as you go. And this is very vital. This is very important to every bit of the conversation that we are going to be having today, because a lot of the people that are going to be listening are first time tech experts, people who are just joining, people who are trying to navigate their career. And so, nuggets like this become very vital to helping them to actually navigate this journey. And talking about the journey, I'd really love for you to share your own journey, from coming out of school to getting your very first role to literally working across two different continents, right? And getting to the C-suite level within, the current organization where you're. I mean, your track record, your portfolio looks really impressive, but it took a lot for you to get here. So if you can, in the next few minutes, just run us through what's that journey looked like from starting out to, getting to this level where you are right now.
Okay. Huh. Well, I I've been in tech now for well over 10 years, and that's because I started tech very young. I was I was in school when I got into tech,
Mm,
and I first got into tech as I got into the project aspect of it. What really stood out was I was telling people what to do. It's really funny the way it happened. It was with a group of friends, and just talking about wanted to build something in school, and everybody was just like, "Oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that." And their idea was just scattered. This person had this idea, and that person was saying, "No, I think we should do it like this,"
mm.
and this person was like, "No, I think we should," and I was just like, "Okay, you know what? We're gonna do this." Telling everybody what to do. I had no idea what I was doing, but it was just everyone was so confused. They needed someone, including the self-proclaimed CEO, needed someone to tell him what to do. So I just took charge and I started telling everyone what to do. And that was where I met the person who would later refer me to one of my first tech jobs. So in that, we built a project, we built a product that it didn't scale, but we did learn valuable lessons, me especially. And then from there, I stepped into marketing. I moved from projects to marketing, and then I moved to products. Now, I moved from marketing to product because I realized that marketing wasn't really my thing. You know, the only reason why I even left projects and moved to marketing was because it was one of my first tech jobs, and what was available then was marketing. So it was really exciting for me. But then after a while, I realized, it's getting boring. And one thing I really dislike is when things get predictable. But I didn't
Mm,
know at the time. I didn't know that I don't like when things get predictable. I just knew that the way I moved, my attention was if something needs to work, I would do it. But then I'm like, what's next? What's next? What's next? But I didn't know it. So when I got bored, I just said, you know what, I'm bored with this career path. I want to move into product. And then I moved into product, which was really exciting because I love products.
mm.
And then I was product manager for quite some time. But then I realized that, you have to baby the product. It was it was a whole lot.
Literally.
You are like you have to like you take it on as a baby, and you have to like nurture everything from start to finish, and there's no finish, it's continuous.
Mm.
Then you have to start looking into the market and developing more features. It was just never ending. It went on. I was already getting bored with it after I got this. I remember then one of my appraisals, because after a while I began to work with I was consulting with other businesses, and with their products we had clients needed to build products, and that gave me
Mm.
the opportunity to work on different kinds of products. And I remember then at the CEO during my appraisal, he said to me, he said, you need to focus on product. I didn't know it at the time, but I was very interested in other parts of it. So whenever I'm having conversations with the clients, I would be saying, I would go beyond the product. I would say, oh, I did a market research, and right now there is X opportunity here and here and here, and this is how I think it should be marketed.
mm,
And then I go into the business of it, the commercial side of it. So a lot of clients would then change their requirements, or I would change the requirements of the product because it simply wasn't connecting to the business side. And that was causing a lot of conflict with the business analyst side of the business
business,
of the
yeah.
organization. So he's like, "You're a product manager. Do you want to be in product or do you want to be a business analyst?" And I was like, "Huh, okay." After a while, I realized that it's cool, but then I wanted something. It's not just about the product. The product is amazing, taking the features and transferring that to something real, something that people love is really amazing. But what I really wanted to do was to grow the product. So I became obsessed with the commercial side of it. And that was
Mm,
when I moved to growth. And after a while, I realized that wait, you know what? Maybe what I should be doing is operations. But I only said get into operations. That was because even though I was working as a growth person, as a head of growth at the time, I was mainly doing operational things. So when you're in growth, you have to unblock a lot of things.
mm,
So I realized that, oh, wait, departments do not exist in silos. They should not. They should
mm,
be talking to each other. Data should be talking to each other all the way from the start of the customer journey to the end of the customer journey. And even at the quote unquote end, there is still lifetime value. Can this person come back in and make a purchase again? And that means we are restarting the journey again.
mm,
So connecting all of these endpoints, I realize this goes beyond growth. This is operational. And one of the most exciting parts of it was that I didn't have to guess at it. It came naturally to me because it wasn't predictable. Today I could be unblocking marketing. Tomorrow I'm unblocking sales. Tomorrow I'm unblocking product. And that lack of predictability was something that I just fell in love with. Um, and then I stepped into operations. So far, it's been an incredibly amazing journey. I have learned so much, and I have also, impacted as well. Because one thing I realize is that you cannot move alone.
mm,
Well, in many cases, I had to develop talent so that I could. So that I could, or my ideas could be implemented the way they needed to be implemented, which is well. Um, you can't go through your entire career only developing yourself. And when I realized that, because before I was very focused on the self, oh, this needs to be done and that needs to be done. And then I realized that in operations, because you're not in one function, you're
mm,
literally everywhere. That means I now have 1 million projects. But then I said, how about I empower people to do what they need to do? And I take a step back. And then I think it was at that moment that I began to develop as a leader, because I realized the best way for me to drive impact and to drive organizational change was to impact people to do what they needed to do and to function at their
mm.
best. So I would say so far operations has been really amazing. I've loved every minute of it and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
That's truly amazing. That's truly amazing. Just listening and seeing how moving from one role to the other and gathering this mix of skills have come together to actually help you perform optimally within the role that you find yourself right now. So when there's a problem with marketing, you can actually relate to what's happening because you've been there before. When there's a problem with the actual product or with the process, you actually understand what that flow looks like because you've actually been there before. And this puts you at a very unique position, and it's really amazing to see. I don't know whether to call you a unicorn at this point, but it's really amazing to see this mix of skills blend and really bring you up to where you are right now, where you are today. It's so amazing to see this. And I'd like to understand something. a lot of people see the tech space today, especially in Nigeria, as oversaturated. And I think globally, a lot of people also see that, right? And they see tech space and it's almost so scary. It's impossible to get into tech. There's so much work to be done. Oh, I'm too old for this. Oh, it's too late. There are already too many people in the tech space, and AI is literally doing everything that needs to be done by these tech professionals. What's your take on this opinion that there are no jobs in tech, or it's oversaturated, or I can't get into this space? What do you think the right headspace, what do you think the right opinion should be about the tech space today, especially in Nigeria?
Hmm. So before I even get into this, because I mean, I think what a lot of people would be expecting that I debunk this. It is true. That's the first thing. You know, tech is saturated. But before I get into it, we have to define what tech is first, because there's the general definition and then there's the actual definition. When you hear tech, it's like everyone just thinks, tech companies,
Hmm.
any company that works, that is online. If they do remote meetings or they have a product, it's a tech business. Okay, fine, that's it. But then tech, really, when you look at it from a different perspective, is about solving problems. I mean, that's literally what technology is. Technology solves problems, technology makes life easier. And in that kind of space, what that space attracts are problem solvers. So we have a lot of people who are in tech, but the question is, do we have problem solvers? That's a completely different direction. It's a different question. And I'm going to answer that no, we don't have enough problem solvers. So first of all, especially in Nigeria, there are always going to be problems to solve. I can take a walk down the streets and I can point out like five different pain points that nobody has fixed yet. It's one of the reasons why. It's one of the reasons why I would say industries like solar, like e-commerce, like fintech, especially fintech, is taking off in Nigeria. Those people who hawk on the streets, the people who sell pure water, gala, minerals in the markets, no one has been able to penetrate that yet and solve the problem. So when you look at it, there is a lot of opportunity in the Nigerian market, but that opportunity is also looking for people who are problem solvers. So it doesn't matter what age you are. If you're young, if you are old, it doesn't matter. And I don't even know what is even the definition of young and old. The number one thing that tech cares about is whether or not you can solve the problem. And if you're coming from a completely different industry, even better. There's what we call transferable skill. Transferable skill means that you can come in with your knowledge at the level that you are at, and then what you have already learned, the person that you have become, can transfer into your new skill or into your new role in tech, because tech is always going to need people who can come in and who can solve problems at scale. So yes, there are lots and lots of people in tech, but there aren't enough problem solvers. If there were, we wouldn't have half of the problems that we have right now, especially in Nigeria. So there's always going to be space, number one, to start something new, to find a new problem to solve. And number two, for talents that define themselves beyond tech, but define themselves as problem solvers. The number one thing that a business exists for is revenue. If the business is not bringing in revenue, it's a waste of time. So when they are looking for, oh, I want to hire somebody, a business is not looking to hire a data analyst just because. A business isn't looking to hire a business analyst just because. The only reason why those roles are open is because there is ROI involved. And ROI means revenue. Revenue means profit for the company. So I would always say to people that you need to find what your moat is. So beyond you being a business analyst or a cybersecurity specialist or an operations analyst, you need to find your moat. For example, my moat is that I would come in and say, this is broken, X is broken, you need to fix it because this is impacting your revenue. But a lot of people would just see operations from, yeah, unblocking workflows. But then when you unblock workflows, doesn't that also create the path for growth? So I would say we need more problem solvers in tech. We don't have enough problem solvers, and it doesn't matter if you are 50, if you are 60, if you are 70, it doesn't matter. So long as you are a strategic person, not only can you brainstorm strategies, but you also go the extra mile to execute, you are the unicorn in the market. And you will always stand out no matter where you are. So, tech itself might be saturated, but you see the space for problem solvers, we need more people in that space, and we can never have enough.
Absolutely, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. And this is something I always emphasize, especially when the conversation around AI taking over tech jobs comes up, right? The function of AI is to do the boring work. Really, that's how I personally use AI. Any work that I'm not really getting into, any work that I don't really enjoy, right? I enjoy my work. I enjoy writing code. I enjoy engineering stuff. But you see things like documentation, preparing slides, you won't find me there. That's the kind of work I'll typically dish out to AI. I want to think, I want to do the calculation, I want to analyze the problem and come up with a solution. AI can do the boring stuff, AI can write the code. But you see that problem solving, it becomes very vital. But in your response, there was also something you mentioned, which I think is very important to emphasize on. And that's the fact that having a foundation which is outside tech is actually an advantage when you are trying to break into the tech space. And I've seen this personally in my experience. Now, I have a computer science background, and that just puts me on that path where you see me as the typical tech bro, right? But again, I've had the opportunity to work with organizations across multiple industries, from finance to I've worked with an aviation company, I've worked with an engineering company, and I have no idea. I have no idea about anything around engineering. Right, I worked with a motor company where I was developing a predictive maintenance model, and I had to deal with machines, vehicles I had no idea about. Imagine being an expert at mechanical engineering and then having this set of technical skills. It automatically makes you stand out for a job like that. And it's this domain expertise that makes people, especially within the tech ecosystem, especially within, areas like data science or machine learning where I find myself, right? It's that domain expertise that tends to separate one person from the other. One person who is not only a machine learning engineer, but also has some foundation in medicine is going to do absolutely phenomenal work within the healthcare sector. Someone who has a banking experience or investment experience and coming in as a data analyst or a machine learning engineer is going to do absolutely amazing within that area of work. So domain expertise becomes a very vital thing to performing optimally within the job role. So whatever background you have, trying to make that transition into the tech space is actually an advantage, right? What you need to do is actually figure out how you can bank on that, right? It's an unfair
Mhm.
advantage, as they say, and you need to figure out how to bank on that. And the market really rewards these kinds of things. One crucial thing that I would really like to hear from you and really like to understand from you, especially as someone who has worked in Europe as well as in Nigeria. What do you see? What do you think are the differences between how the job market works over there and how it works here within our ecosystem? What the differences are, what the similarities are, and how can someone compete across both markets?
Okay. What's the difference between both markets? Number one, the pay.
I completely
Only
agree.
two.
I agree with that. I agree with
So,
that.
I think a lot of times, first of all, like Nigerians tend to undervalue their talents. And then when you ship your talent abroad, you realize that, oh my God, is this how much I'm worth? So that's one of the first things. Another thing is there are a lot of things that we take for granted in Nigeria. And you're literally not going to find that in, for example, um, performance frameworks. If you want to work for a global company, you have to understand that performance frameworks is not just it's not just a word. It's not just about performance. They do mean it. And when you talk about that level of structure, especially if you are maybe like a full-time employee working in that zone, you will have performance frameworks. There will be expectations, and it's so much different from working in a Nigerian company. So that's one of the things that's very different about the European market and the Nigerian market. You have some companies that have that level of framework, that level of structure, but it's very different when you're working in European markets. If you're working for maybe let's say like a UK company or something, yes, it's different. If you're working in maybe in the US, I always say that one of the biggest differences between the UK and the US is, funny enough, the US, they do not joke about their work. So corporate America is incredibly intense. And if you're working for maybe a company in the UK, the way they work, the way they move is very, very different. So one thing that you would have to completely get rid of is that the thinking in your head that, oh, like the market in the US is going to be the same thing as working for a Nigerian company. See that money that you're collecting, you're going to work for it. You are going to work for it. And the reason why there's so much someone was asking me one time, can I actually find opportunities in other markets? Are you sure that there really are jobs there? 100%. That's because we have a surplus of people. There's so many people in Nigeria, which means that for these companies, it's so much easier for them to say, hey, I'm going to look to the Nigerian market for me to hire talent here. And when you even look at it, it's much more cheaper for them. In many cases, they would bring this talent on as contractors. So one of the biggest differences, like I mentioned, are how performance frameworks move. There are clearly expectations that are different in the Nigerian market and are completely different in the US market. For example, your 6 is 6 p.m. You see that thing that we call African time, that bad character. That you cannot do that bad character when you are if you're unless if you're working in Nigeria now, you know that you can walk into a meeting at 6:05 and you can say, oh, it's my Kiniko, they will understand. But when you're working in the US, in the UK, the expectations are completely different and they do not understand African time. Another thing is also the internet as well. So you want to work in a market that is different from yours. You have to ensure that you've got fantastic internet. You have to ensure that your internet is fantastic. So in a nutshell, I would say one, performance framework. So all of these, all of these bad habits that you can have and people would overlook in the Nigerian job market, the expectations are completely different when you are working for an European company, when you're working for a company that is in a different country. Second thing, of course, is I've forgotten the second thing I mentioned, but then I would say that your internet as well. Also ensure that your internet is fantastic too. So there are a couple of differences, but one thing that would really help a talent that is moving into a completely different market shine is just ensure that the way you are delivering is on an excellent level, because that market doesn't take excuses. If you are hired to deliver X, you have to deliver X, and you also have to be excellent in everything that you do. So those are one of like the biggest differences. So if anyone is looking to break into that market, I would say just be ready to do the work to earn the pay.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I completely agree with these things, right? Especially the timeliness, right? You set deadlines, you set timelines for actually getting work done, and you have to meet these deadlines, right? The market is not very forgiving. If you're not getting the work done, they would go out and look for someone else that will get things done. I mean, they're paying a lot of money for you to actually get the work done. And one major struggle, which you already mentioned, is the internet. You have to get that sorted. You're competing at a global level. A lot of things might be at your disadvantage being in Nigeria, like electricity and the internet. However, regardless, you need to be resilient and find a way to make things work. Um, I'm about to ask a question, and this is one that I've personally seen and to a certain extent experienced myself. And I would like to hear your perspective as someone from that C executive level, right? Two people within the same organization might have relatively the same level of output, but one person seems to be progressing, right? Promotions, moving ahead, while the other person seems to be stagnant. Two people in the same role, one person is moving forward, while the other might seem to be stagnant. Now, besides all of the paper criterias that we tend to see, what's actually happening in the background, what can actually move that needle to get someone to move forward in their criteria, what might be the difference between these two people, what would you be looking out for as the COO, as the head of a team, to say, oh, this person deserves to move forward, this person deserves a promotion, this person deserves to be taken up.
So that would be two things. It would be ownership and visibility. Ownership and visibility. Remember, I had a conversation with someone recently, and it was about visibility. Now, this person is incredibly smart, and the only reason why I know the person is smart is because one time I asked a question, and the person responded, and I thought, now that is a really smart answer. But aside from that, I never really saw this person anywhere else. In meetings, this person is invisible, quiet. You don't hear from the person. You don't see anything the person is doing. The person doesn't volunteer for anything. It's just the person is invisible. But it was just this one time that that person was visible to me and left a solid impression. So I had a conversation. We got on a call, and I said, "Look, I'm not sure what you are looking to accomplish, but whatever it is that you want, you will not get it because at this rate that you are going, nobody even knows what you're doing. The only thing that tells us what you do is the title of your job. And right now, a lot could be dependent on that, but nobody knows.
Hmm.
When we're talking about projects and we're talking about problems, I don't hear your voice. I only hear other people's voice. And the only reason why I know that you are smart is because that one time when I asked a question, gave an incredible response that has stayed with me since then. What's the problem? And I remember that I told this person, I said, you need to step up. Like what I always say to people like that, 'cause I've had to have several, I call it talking deliverance. I've had to have several talking deliverance with people in my career where I say you need to step up, you need to become visible, and you need to step out of whatever hole it is that you have stuck your talent. So I told this person, I said, you need to spread your wings and
Hmm.
soar and let trust be the be what propels you into the next stage. So you cannot be serious about moving forward in your career and you don't take ownership. You are not visible. The people that I remember the most are the people who take ownership, who make my life easy in some way, shape, or form, because there are so many things on the table every day. But when somebody makes a suggestion, and I'm like, interesting. But you don't just stop there. You go and you execute. People like that move forward in their careers. I was advising a group of young people recently who told me, I want to get to C suite. And I was like, okay, what do you think you need to do? And the person was like, oh, I need to go to school. I need to go get my MBA, I need to get my PhD, I need to get this, I need to get, and I'm like, who cares about your school? What is that going to do for anybody? I mean, I'm happy for you, but nobody cares. Nobody like that literally does. What do you think that we're going to put your fancy qualifications and that's
Hmm.
going to get investors to cough money out? Nobody cares. Like I mentioned at the start, problem solvers. So
Hmm.
many people are in tech, but there are few people who are problem solvers. So you can, I know some people that I started my career as a product manager, they're still product managers, and it's not even like they've moved forward to senior product managers. They are still on that product management level. They've not been able to break away from anything beyond managing products left, right, and center. The difference between us was I said, okay, we have a problem, and I'm going to go beyond the product. I'm going to go to the commercial side. I'm going to go to the business. I'm going to go to marketing. I'm going to go to sales. I'm going to go to growth. I'm going to go to all of the engines that makes this product move and sell in the market. That is the spirit of ownership. And it's also why in every organization that I've gone into, I move through the ranks very quickly.
Mm,
Because when you see someone who takes aggressive ownership and someone who's just like, yeah, well, that's how it is. No problem. And instead of you to come to me with a solution, like it's funny if you come to me with a problem. You need to come to me with the problem. And this is how I think that we should fix it. People like that are memorable. So I would say you want to start moving forward in your career. You don't want to stay stagnant. Just go with what is possible, become a problem solver. That's what you need. So the difference between the person who is moving forward and the person who isn't, who is just stuck in one place, is that that person only knows how to do one thing in a certain way. Before I hand up, I'm going to just try and put things into perspective. For example, AI is doing magnificent things right now when it comes to the way we work. One person can use AI, and the level of outputs that they are getting is insane compared to person B who doesn't know how to use and apply AI in their workflows. That person who knows how to apply AI to their workflow has just become an asset. A friend of mine in Canada was working in an e-commerce company, and she was able to move from e-commerce. She got supply chain handed in her portfolio. And how did she do that? And then when that happened, she was also promoted as well very fast. And then after she decided she needed to leave the company and do one or other things, they began to look for three people to fill the role of one
1%.
person. It's
Wow.
insane.
Wow.
This person the role of an e-commerce manager, of a procurement manager, of a supply chain manager. How did she do it? It was her and AI. They both co-piloted. She was able to run the system as a single person, and just because she was leaving, they had to start looking for three people. So I would say become a problem solver.
Mm.
Think of AI as a force multiplier and become a beast in your workflows. You will never be replaced. Any company that you walk into, they'll be better off because you were there. When you are
Mm.
leaving, they'll be begging you to stay.
That's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Lola, for sharing. We are running out of time. We have a hard stop at 9 p.m. So I'm going to crunch things down to a few last questions. The first of which is, right now you are at that C-suite level in your career, but it took a lot of work to get to that point. Were there times where you felt like, this thing doesn't look like it's working, though? I mean, were there times where you felt imposter syndrome? How exactly did you navigate that? And for other people who are also most likely facing the same situation right now, maybe tech is not the right path for me. Maybe I should consider something else. People who are thinking in that light, what would be your advice for them? So, first off, how did you navigate that, and what's your advice for these kinds of people?
When you get to a point in your life where you're feeling imposter syndrome, you're doing something right. Honestly, it's very easy. I've only felt imposter syndrome one time in my life, and I used it to validate myself. There was a time I walked into a room and I felt like, oh, I don't think I should be here. And it was really funny because I walked in, there were much older men in the room, and I had the hair that I had on, I had beads in my hair.
Mm.
Had beads in my hair, and I looked very much like a girl, And I walked in. So not only did I, and these men were very serious, they were wearing their native, they were looking
Ah.
all very, And I just walked into the room and I felt like, wow, you know, there's so many accomplished people here. And then there's me, whenever I move here, and I'm still feeling, maybe maybe I'm not supposed to be inside this room. And it was just that moment. And then I thought, hey, you know what? Whatever it is that you have done up until this point led you here. And I guess that you've been doing something right. So it was only that one time that I ever felt what I would call imposter syndrome. So what I would tell people, and then I also looked up, I read up articles on it because I was very curious about it. I told a friend what I was feeling, and she's like, huh, maybe that's imposter syndrome. I'm like, okay, I've heard about that, but let me dive into it. So I started reading up on imposter syndrome. And one thing that I found that I really held on to was that when you start to feel like maybe it's too easy for me, you've reached what I call flow state. Flow state is now you can put this stuff on a loop. And it was not easy before you got to a point where you can now start
Yeah,
looking at certain workflows take people a while to get
to
to.
get there.
Now for you, it's much easier. You actually put in the work. And imposter syndrome is a good thing because the more you feel like, well, this stuff is too easy for me, the more you want to get better. So imposter syndrome, I think, is a superpower.
Mm,
If we focus on just like, oh, I don't feel like, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not. Nah, I would say transmutate that energy and say, I can do better. And then you're not asking yourself, what am I doing right now that I can do better? And if it's not broken, it can certainly be improved. So trust me, no matter where you've gotten to in your career and you think I'm fantastic, there are still things that you can do better. There are things you can do faster. The things I can do now in a day used to take me a month. There was a point where it
mm,
took me a week, and now it takes me a day to do it. And for some people, they are still at a point where it takes them such a long time to do things. It's only dedicated myself to getting better at certain things that I was able to reach that level, what I would call flow state. So if you have imposter syndrome and you're asking yourself, do I deserve to be here? That is a good question. You know
mm,
what? But just change the question and say, how can I be better from where I was yesterday to today? But one thing I want to leave you with is always stop to appreciate your growth. Always stop to say, hey, I did this.
mm,
I did this because there is no one else who will do the things that you do for yourself. So if you're the kind of person you are driven, you want to do something, you stay up at night, you are reading, you are trying to get better, you have a goal, you go after it. My God, do you deserve a thank you? So the same way you would walk up to somebody else and say, thank you for being amazing, is the same way you should tell yourself, thank you for being amazing, because it's not
mm.
easy to show up for yourself over and over and over again. So imposter syndrome transmutates that energy and change it into something positive.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Lola, for all of these nuggets. And it's been an amazing conversation so far. And to wrap it up, I would like for you to share your final advice, to that person in their 20s who is currently in final year and thinking about what happens after school, right? Or that person who is just getting out of NYC and is thinking, what next? Right? I'm going into the job market. What next? Or even that person in their 40s, in the middle of their career, they feel stuck. There's been no promotion in a couple of years, and it feels like, oh, tech looks like the next big thing, and I would like to go here. What would be your advice to someone in these positions?
Hmm. I would say keep walking a straight line, one foot in front of the other. That's it, one foot in front of the other.
Mm.
There are days when it's going to feel incredibly difficult, but you know what helps is having a goal. I love goals. I love targets. I love KPIs. You know all about that. I think that it is impossible for you to achieve anything if you don't know what you want to achieve. I like to spell it out. So first of all is you have a goal, you have a target, and it doesn't matter, oh, I'm just leaving school, oh, I'm 40, I'm looking to move into a new path in my career. I'm a stay-at-home mom, I'm a single mom, I have no idea where to go from here. If you're looking to do something with your life, you want to get something, you want to get to somewhere where you are not. I would say, first of all, get a pen and a paper, because if you can write it down, you can start to hold it in your mind. And what
Mm,
you can hold in your mind, your actions, your thoughts, your habits,
mm,
they start to align. And trust me when I say that you will certainly accomplish it. So, firstly, I would say break your goal down into 10 year, 5 year, 2 years, 1 year, and then say, what do I need to accomplish in 1 year, in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? That is going to tell you what your habit has to be like every day. And then what are the weekly evidence? Maybe you want to accomplish X amount of money by in the next 10 years. Break it down into what do I need to be making every single day. That's an example. You want to get X job. Then, if you want to get X job, go and look at the people who have walked that path before. What was their career trajectory like? What did they do that you need to be doing? They went to X conference. You don't even have to recreate the wheel. Honestly, just copy and paste. Command C, go and look at what they are doing. I need to do that is going to get me to where these people are. And
mm,
most importantly, break it down into smaller steps. You see some people who will say things like, I wanna be a billionaire. But how in the world do you get there? How do you want to get there? So you can hold the vision in your mind. This is where I want to be in the next couple of years, but break it down into smaller, digestible steps. And that's why I say one foot in front of the other. Because how do you move if you don't know where you are going? And of course, there are going to be times when you feel yourself, times when you let yourself down, or you didn't get that interview, or you weren't able to get that business started, or things just did not work out, because guess what, that is life.
mm,
But what I've learned over time is that one of the things that makes life so beautiful is the positive and the negative parts of it. So I like to sit even in negative emotions and enjoy it, because what a beauty it is to
mm,
feel range, a spectrum of emotion. And then I allow myself sit. If I was defeated, or maybe I failed at something, I would sit in that and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And then I'd feel all of the negative emotions. But
mm,
then myself, I'm going to tell myself that, you know what, we're going to feel like this for the next 3 days. I give you 3 days to move around.
mm,
After 3 days, you get rid of this thought that doesn't serve you, get rid of this feeling, and you move on. So in that 3 days, nobody should talk to me, because nobody. And then I pick myself up and it's back to business. So, for everyone who wants to get to a point in their lives, I'm going to tell you one thing right now. I would say lock in season.
mm.
Lock in, it's not easy. You're going to fall sometimes. You are going to feel yourself. You're going to be disappointed in people, in yourself, but hold the vision in your mind. And more importantly, break it down on paper, paste it somewhere in your room. Oh, I want to be here, I want to be this. Go and get someone who is doing it and put that person's picture in your room. Then break it down to smaller steps. What do you need to do to get here every day? What are the habits you need to build? What is the mentality that you need to have? And then what do you do after that? You fake it till you make it.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Lola. And everyone, you heard it here first, right? It's already the first half of the year. We are wrapping up the first half of the year. We are getting into the second half, right? You need to go and buy a new padlock and be locked in. All right. You heard it here first. Lola said, get locked in. So go and get your padlocks, guys. Also, absolutely fantastic. It's been a pleasure having you here, Lola. And before we let you go, it's our tradition here that you leave a question for the next guest, something that's going to help everyone else listening just guide their path. Any question that you think the answer to would actually help someone listening.
Okay, this one is a trap. This one is a trap. Let me see. Um, leave a question for the next guest. Okay. Um, I would say that, hmm, what gave you, or how do you think people can, how do you build permission to think bigger than where you are right now? How do you develop permission
Hmm.
to think bigger than your current circumstances? I mean, A, and I want to get Z, what audacity?
Hmm.
What gives you that permission think
Hmm.
bigger than you are right now? How do you get that? Because just like I said, and I think it's, I'm connecting it to my last question, which is you have to break your steps down into XX goals. You know, so you are here and you're already imagining what your 10-year goal looks like, what your 20-year goal looks like. What level of audacity do you need in order for you to do that? And then how you break it apart and achieve that goal. Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I'd love to even see how you
All
respond to it.
right. Thank you so much, Lola. And for everyone listening, if you would like to hear about how you can build audacity and achieve those amazing goals that you have to make sure that you are looking out for the next episode. And I'll be looking forward to seeing everyone there. Thank you so much once again, Lola. It's been a pleasure having you around.
Thank you for having me.